The goal of anxiety gaming is to make mental health accessible to gamers all over the world. We work directly with the therapist and with our own clinicians to make sure that mental health care is incredibly affordable. A lot of the times our rates go as low as $30 a session, and if you can't afford $30 a session, we cover the cost completely through our grant program.
Hello. Okay. Yeah, unmute the desktop audio. And
Oh,
there
there we
you
go.
are. I see
Oh.
you now.
Hi.
I figured it out.
Yay. Okay. I don't know if you want to switch over. There you go. And get out of studio mode so I can actually see what the heck is happening. Okay. And I don't know if you want to get rid of that message. GG, Patrick. Everything has been not cooperating with us, but hello, Jason.
Hello.
Okay, guys, so, oh my god, wait, I can't see the chat. Everything, you have it set up so they can't see it in the window.
It was no, because you have to have this.
There we go, okay, we should be fine now, but hey guys, okay, so we're doing this 24-hour stream for Anxiety Gaming, and you are the founder of it, so welcome to the stream, and thank you for being here. So if anyone has, like, any questions, I don't know if you want to, like, introduce yourself and explain a little bit. I don't know what.
Yeah. Yeah, I'd love to do that. Thank you so much for having me and for doing this. This really means a lot to me. So my name is Jason. I started Anxiety Gaming maybe like 7 years ago. I'm a lot older than I look, I think. But yeah, I started this because I was dealing with severe anxiety, which developed into what we call agoraphobia, which is pretty much the fear of leaving home. And somewhere along the line, I started talking to other gamers about it and realized that a lot of people were dealing with these issues and that something needed to be done with it. So I've teamed up with a lot of different professionals to really streamline a process that makes mental health really accessible, that makes mental health care something affordable and realistic for just about everybody. And to date, we've helped 25,000 people recover from depression and anxiety. So I'm really hyped to keep that going.
Well, thank you for everything that you do, because I know it's super important to a lot of people. And I know what it's like to not, have the means and all. So I'm sure it affects more people than they're probably willing to admit as well, sadly. So, well, yeah, let's not be jerks about this now, guys. Chat, that's all I ask of you. Anyways, so yeah, I don't know where we want to go from here. I don't know if you want to, if anyone has any questions.
Yeah, if anybody has questions, what I would be more than happy to do is maybe answer some of those professional questions that you might not normally want to ask or maybe feel uncomfortable asking in person. I know mental health issues are something that a lot of people don't really want to talk about or are generally really confused in talking about. And one of the things that can make it even more complicated is that we get so used to being anxious or depressed all the time that it becomes our normal and we don't really realize that life doesn't need to be that way.
Yeah. I know that's for a lot of people. So I don't know if anyone has any questions, but how did you get how did you start this? Like, how did you go about making this a thing?
That's a pretty interesting question. So, dealing with agoraphobia for as long as I did, I got to a point, I think I was maybe like 3 years into not having left home, where I thought, maybe I would just not live anymore. And I made this really weird justification with myself that if I helped somebody else, then I could justify taking my own life. And yeah, I found somebody through World of Warcraft, and I talked them out of committing suicide. And then they recommended a friend to me, and then that friend recommended somebody, and then a couple of people I had talked to prior had reached out, and it just became this almost endless chain of talking to people over and over again and making sure that they were okay.
Yeah. That's awesome, though. Helping people is like a really satisfying thing. And I feel like it's a lot easier for some people to like help other people than themselves, unfortunately. But it's awesome to also, you know, take care of yourself, because you need to be okay in order to help other people. So I'm glad that you're here and that you are able to help as many people as you do now.
I have a few questions, it looks like.
Yeah. Okay. So Heyface asks, what are some techniques to help with the anxiety?
It definitely depends on what kind of anxiety you're dealing with.
Yeah.
But generally, what I like to do is I like to take a moment to do what we call grounding. And so I'll sit in a chair, or I'll lay down, or find some place where I can have a little bit of peace to myself, and try and really focus on my different body parts. So let's say I'm sitting in a chair, I'll press my feet really hard into the ground and try and become hyper aware of exactly what that feels like. Or I might, on the arms of the chair, I might grip the arms of the chair and become hyper focused on what that feels like on my fingers and what that feels like, the texture of the chair. And what you're doing in that situation is you're really taking a lot of your mind off of the anxiety and putting it into realizing what's going on around you and being more in the moment. In the long-term sense of it, you definitely want to study breathing techniques and getting an understanding that as simple as breathing sounds, it's possible for you to control your body and control your stress levels through breathing exercises. So taking deep breaths in and slowly exhaling. My favorite method is to take air in through the mouth and then slowly exhale through the nose. And then what I would really love for people to look into is what we call mindfulness meditation, which is for people that maybe aren't interested in meditation or yoga or things like that. It's actually a pretty well-researched secular approach. You can look up authors like Dr. John Kabat-Zinn and read his approach to mindfulness, which is simply learning how to keep yourself in the moment of things. Which should be especially helpful with anxiety, given that anxiety is usually based in something that happened in the past and then worries about things in the future.
Makes sense. And was that Neo that just tipped? Was that?
Yes.
Yeah, Neo, thank you. Or not tipped, donated. Thank you, Neo, for the donation too. I'm sorry, that was like such a happy song talking about such a serious thing. My alerts are crazy. Another question was, how do you find a therapist for me?
Oh, awesome. So the therapy process that we use starts with an application on our website. And that gives us just a better idea of where you are, kind of a trivial overview of what you're dealing with. And then what we'll do is we'll interview you and get to know you a little bit better. We'll talk back and forth and get an understanding of what you're going through at that point, what the anxiety looks like, what the depression looks like, how it's impacting your daily life. I'll get a better understanding of who you are and your personality type. And then we start looking for therapists local to you at whatever cost you can afford on whatever insurance you're on. And then we make sure that they fit you on a personality level, as well as specialize in the things that you're trying to address. And that makes sure that when you match with a therapist, they're usually the best possible person for you. Because the better we get along with our therapist, the more likely we are to recover. It dramatically increases the chances of recovery.
Yeah.
So it's very personal.
I just read a question and now I lost it again.
I've been writing them down. Hold on.
Well, did we get any? The other ones? No. You have to talk louder. If you're gonna talk, Patrick.
Oh. I feel weird because I'm not on the camera. So somebody asked if doing this has actually helped your anxiety and stuff. Just helping with
the grounded stuff.
No, the actual running anxiety gaming and things like that. Yeah.
I don't know if you heard him, but Patrick asked if running anxiety gaming has helped your anxiety.
Yeah, that's it's a really double-edged question for me because I constantly tell people that are dealing with mental health issues that they should focus on themselves and not worry about helping others just yet. And there's really a danger to the way I approach it in that sense, but ultimately it was something that was incredibly helpful for me, and really the only reason that I ended up recovering. The unique thing about depression and anxiety is that often people dealing with these issues care more about other people than they do themselves. And
Yeah.
when I was looking towards recovery and I was helping all of these people start to recover, I hit this moment of like, well, like I can't really just talk the talk. Like I have to walk the walk and do this process myself. So I put myself through our own program, recovered, and as difficult as it was for me, it was always in the back of my head that I had to
Hey,
get
I
better
just met you,
because
and
it was
this
the
is
only way that
crazy.
I could keep helping
So
people.
here's my
So
money.
Yeah.
it definitely
Take it,
helped
maybe?
me a lot.
Ha cheese Skyhook.
We should turn off alerts. That was so loud. I'm so sorry. Yeah, it makes total sense because I'm kind of, I mean, I don't do as much, but like I'm kind of the same way. Like I'm always like looking out for other people, and it's like sometimes you got to realize that you can't help other people if you're not okay as well. Sadly, but thank you, Bershak, for the 9-month reserve. I appreciate you. We're probably gonna, I guess. Can you turn off the sub alerts and stuff like that so that we don't have to worry about that being a distraction? But I don't know. Patrick has the controller, aka the mouse. I don't know what I'm even saying right now. Okay, so someone asked, what are ways to deal with suicidal thoughts?
Okay, so suicidal thoughts are something that a lot of people go through, and I think it's not really brought up as much as I'd like to see it brought up because there's that taboo surrounding it. But everybody in their life will think about suicide, and they'll think about suicide numerous times. The reality of suicide is that it comes as an option when we feel like there really isn't any other option. There's no other way to deal with this pain. There's no other way to get better. I'm not going to be able to defeat this. Then that process comes, or there's no escape from this particular situation. So that's what I have to do. And if that's where you find yourself is you're feeling suicidal because you don't see any other options, what I would always recommend is to remind yourself that you can find other options. As dooming as it can feel, suicide doesn't have to be the only option that comes to mind. Professional help, talking with people about these issues, they never really seem like real options to us, but they completely are. And any time I've personally had these thoughts of suicide, I've always tried to follow it up with thoughts of, well, how would that impact other people around me? How would that impact what I'm ultimately trying to do? Because is my ultimate goal just to get away from everything, or is my ultimate goal to be happy?
Yeah.
Because if my ultimate goal is to be happy in this life, there are ways to do that. One of the things that I really encourage people to do that are having suicidal thoughts is to kind of flip the way that they approach problems. So a lot of people will see problems in their life, and let's say you want to get in shape. People dealing with depression will say, why do I look this way? Why am I so out of it? They ask themselves questions that they don't really have answers to, but inevitably cause you to feel stressed and feel like you lack control. Instead, you try and ask the question of, how can I get in the best shape of my life? How can I feel happy? Not why can't I be happy, but how can I become happy? And when you start asking those kinds of questions and look to problem solve those, you'll see that you have way more options than suicide.
Yeah. Thank you. And people have been tipping, and we've been borking up. Thank you guys for I keep saying tipping because that's usually what's happening. Thank you guys for donating. I'm sorry that the alerts weren't popping up because it's linked with like the regular alerts. So I'm sorry, guys. But thank you for the donations. Did you get Sandler's question? I think I can scroll up and get yours. Patrick's doing like a bunch right now. So someone in chat says, I have chronic pain caused by mental problems. Do you have any recommendations? I've been to doctors, and all they can tell me is that it's all in my head and no actual physical health problems. They say I should try meditation, but I'm broke. So that's Danler's question. Unfortunately, like, I know someone who's dealing with that personally, and it's really difficult to have doctors tell you that nothing is wrong when you know something is wrong. So I am interested in this, what you would have to say about that as well.
Yeah, that's always a tough one. So this is kind of an odd story about myself in a way that leads into this, but I have ridiculous amounts of medical debt because I knew something was physically wrong with me, and I would not accept no for an answer. And one of the things that I quickly realized is that the second the physician that you're seeing believes that you have anxiety or depression, or maybe you've brought that up in the conversation in passing, that's everything that you say gets dismissed and written off as part of that mental health issue.
Yeah.
You're only feeling this way because you're anxious. You're only thinking this way because you're anxious. And looking back on it now, I think that they were right for the most part, but there were physical issues that I had to overcome that they kind of dismissed because of that. And so if you're looking to get the most out of a doctor's visit, I would always recommend them doing kind of trivial checks, just saying that you really want to get a full checkup, or maybe some blood work done, because blood work will come up and say whether something is wrong. But also, after you get the blood work, be ready to accept the reality that it may actually be your mental health. I have seen stress completely slow down the body. I've seen stress take out a friend of mine's knees and make it really difficult for him to walk and really do anything. Stress impacts the body in ways that we can't even begin to imagine. And so it's very much possible for the amount of stress that anxiety and depression creates to incapacitate you or to cause chronic pain constantly. But the blood tests, the physical checkup, that's really the most that you're going to get a doctor to do before you have to decide whether they're right or wrong, or whether there's some kind of happy medium there. As far as meditation goes, meditation is definitely one of the best approaches to controlling pain, and that's something that people use even when they are in very serious physical pain. I not too long ago broke my elbow and my right knee in a motorcycle accident, and meditation was what I had to go through or utilize to deal with that level of pain. As far as the funding goes, that's always a complicated one, depending on what country you're in, depending on what state you're in. Usually anxiety gaming can help with stuff like that. If you're trying to see a therapist and learn meditation in that way, or you're trying to get general doctor visits to get some of those tests cleared up, you can reach out to us and we'll do our best to try and fund it and see what we can do to make sure that you're covered.
Yeah, the whole funds thing I know is a huge part of it, but for me personally, I know that a lot of it, just like therapists for me, like going to different doctors is definitely like important, because I'm sure you can probably find a doctor that cares, but it's like one of those things where it's like you kind of have to go through trial and error to a certain extent to have someone listen to you. So it's kind of like you just have to judge it, which isn't always the easiest thing. Oh god, there's a lot of questions. How do you tell the difference between stress and mental health problems and anxiety?
Ooh, that's a really good question. So, one of the things to realize, and this is especially something that we try and teach people that are a little bit younger, is that you're going to be stressed, you're going to be anxious, and you're going to be depressed. It's a part of life. When a family member passes away, or you lose a friend, or when sad things happen in life, it's okay to be depressed. It's helpful and healthy to be depressed. I often encourage people, when you're feeling depressed, be depressed. Don't try and fight it. Don't try and force yourself to be happy. It's good to be depressed on occasion. It's the same thing with anxiety. If you have a major test coming up, if you've got a lot of stress on your back, It's okay to feel anxious. It's just how your body responds to levels of stress. So the best way to look at this is, let's say you are having the perfect day. Nothing has gone wrong. You're not worried about anything. You're not worried about tomorrow. You're at 0 levels of stress. And then somebody says, hey, I need you to take out the trash. Oh, and did you do your homework? And so your stress level starts to go up a little bit because you're like, oh, I need to do my homework, but I have to do this too. And then you get told that you need to go over here, you need to pick up your friend because they're stranded. And so your stress levels go up again. And all of that is completely normal. And in response to that, you may get anxious because you're like, oh, but I have to do these multiple things at once. It makes me really nervous. Or, you have a bunch of bad things happening at once and you feel depressed, and that's normal. When it starts to become an issue, usually is when you can't shake those feelings at all. And so maybe, you and a friend had a falling out and you were really depressed about it. And that makes sense for the first week or two for you to be depressed. You miss that friend, you miss the being with them, you're stressed out by the situation. But then we look 6 months later and you're still depressed. And you're really not even thinking about that situation so much, but everything is like that. This friend left and now all of my friends are going to leave and I'm the worst. And really you start to see your whole life become shaded by a lot of these issues. That's when it becomes a problem. When you can't seem to shake these feelings of anxiety and depression for the next few months, when it starts to really heavily impact your day-to-day life, that's when you need to reach out and see a professional. But generally being stressed, occasionally being anxious, being depressed from time to time, especially if you're a teenager, you're going to feel those a lot.
Being a teenager is not fun.
Not at all.
Yeah, I think it's something that like all of us kind of, I don't know. I think back to being a teenager and how like stressed and like how depressed I was, and it's just like, not that people should have to go through it at extremes, but it really is something that like you're trying to figure yourself out. Like it's kind of something that like you need to realize that like it happens. It's life. I think like the older you get, the more you understand yourself. Or at least for me, the older I get, the more I understand my anxiety and my depression, and the easier I can deal with it, because I know, this worked before, like this doesn't work for me. So I think a big thing, like overall, is to just like not lose like hope that it can get better. Like you said in the beginning, like it's definitely something that like you can get through. You just kind of have to have the motivation to figure it out, which I know is like the biggest problem for a lot of people in itself. Preteen hormone levels. Yeah, Lorelai, sea salt has been on hormone therapy, so she's been having preteen hormone levels. That's super. I don't miss that at all. Someone asked, is there any way we can help out and volunteer with this program?
Yes, absolutely. We are in dire need of volunteers, ranging from just about anything you can think of. If you have any kind of technical skill, trade, all of those things are vital to us right now, because anxiety gaming runs entirely on volunteers. All of our clinicians, all of our executives, everybody works for free so that we can make sure donations go further. So if you're maybe a graphics artist, a web designer, things along those lines, we have immediate need. If you're, really just want to play video games and help out in that way, we have a Discord that's private, and within that Discord, it's filled with people that are going through our programs, that are interested in seeing therapists and getting professional help, and being able to sign up and play video games with them and just be that support system or even that mentor that they need. Is probably one of the best ways that you can get involved in immediately. And that's as simple as heading to our website and clicking Game with Anxiety Gaming. The one thing to keep in mind, though, is so the Game with Anxiety Gaming program is for people who have gone through these issues and want to give back, and get involved in that way. If you're going through these issues and you would like professional help going through them, that's clicking the therapist finder. I know that part can be a little confusing.
Yeah. We have a command for everything. So if you guys need links, it should be in the chat now. What were the other questions? Thank you for that. So someone asked, is paranoia a form of anxiety?
It can be. Paranoia and paranoid thoughts, it depends on what seems to be the root of them, and the level of focus and obsession that comes with them. For example, somebody with obsessive compulsive disorder may have constant paranoia that what they're obsessed with is going to overtake them or overwhelm them. I think the most general one is that people think of with OCD is germophobia and the fear that they're going to become contaminated. And where paranoia would ring in there is that you're constantly worried about getting contaminated, which is just looped into that. With anxiety, some of the paranoia can be related to social situations and fearing that you're going to be overwhelmed by those, or that people are thinking about you constantly and judging you. So paranoia just really depends on the definition that you're playing with there. But again, it also rings back to that reality of, if occasionally you're paranoid, that's fine. If you're paranoid constantly and it's impacting your daily life, then it's a serious issue that you should definitely look into help for.
Yeah. Thank you. Again, I'm going to say thank you every time because I'm just like, you're so good at explaining things. I appreciate you. Okay, so how can someone with a BA in psychology help your cause? And what about nursing?
So a bachelor's in psychology, we are looking for psych techs. One of the really unique things about anxiety gaming is that we conduct a lot of research. Now that might be interesting to realize if you're filling out applications and whatnot. But the point of this really is we're trying to understand why so many gamers are dealing with mental health issues, or even if that's the right question to be asking. What we've seen with the amount of people that we help with and that go with our program is that these issues tend to have a very specific focus. Most of the people that reach out to us are dealing with social anxiety, they're dealing with depression. A lot of their issues tend to be very similar, and strangely enough, a lot of the origins for these issues tend to be similar. So we're constantly trying to make connections there and figure out how we can better prevent these issues from happening. And so what a lot of BA level students can do with us, or BS level students, is help us kind of quantify a lot of that research, as well as ask some of the questions that we may not have seen on a more creative. If you have your BA and you're looking for, say, your master's program, your MFT, your LPC, or looking for maybe your PhD track programs, you can join our care providing side and learn more about each of the different professional sectors. You'll learn the difference between a psychiatrist and a psychologist, the difference between a marriage family therapist and a social worker, and really be able to get involved and help people on a one-to-one level, not providing therapy per se, but helping them find therapists, which is one of the things that we're really in need of right now, is more people to help with that.
Yeah.
Nurses probably along the same line. We would have things like that. I think we have one nurse now. We're looking for more to come on and put their licensure with some of our professionals so that we can deal with some of those more emergency issues when somebody reaches out to us and they're dealing with what could be a medical issue, kind of chiming in and giving some weight there. That's pretty critical right now as well.
So is there any way for people to contact you? Like, would you like any specific way for people to reach out to do that if they're interested?
Yeah, absolutely. If you'd like to volunteer and you're really interested in doing this and helping people on that level, you can head over to anxietygaming.com, and there's a section over there for volunteers where you can fill out our program. All of our, you'll go to anxietygaming.com, click contact, and then click volunteer. All of our volunteers run through criminal background checks, so the volunteer process is a lot more serious than just kind of the basic interaction. So do keep that in mind.
Yay, thank you. Okay. Another question. Wait, how the heck could be a hydro? How do you say that word? I am not prepared for English.
Do you think that someone could be a hypochondriac with the mental illness?
I know that word. Why am I like this?
The question is, do you think that somebody that's a hypochondriac has a mental illness?
I think they mean that people can think they have mental illnesses when they don't have them, or they were misdiagnosed, I guess.
Yes, actually. So that is a thing, and it's a really big concern of ours, and it's something that we're constantly trying to work on. So there's a theory within psychology called the social media theory, and it's a really bizarre one, but the thinking is that, let's say you're staying up super late and you see an infomercial, and the infomercial is like, are you depressed? Are you up late? Are you having trouble sleeping? You may have depression. And then all of a sudden you're just like, oh man, that describes me perfectly. I have depression. And then you start looking into depression and you start seeing those behaviors, and maybe you were feeling kind of sluggish one day and it was hard to get up, but otherwise your life is pretty normal. But now you're starting to think about these things and hyperanalyze them, and then you're starting to you start to take on those behaviors and become depressed yourself. It's really interesting, but we actually can catch depression, so to speak. If you hang out with somebody that's dealing with depression, you will adopt their behaviors because we're social animals, and that's what we do. So we mirror behaviors. So yeah, you can also believe that you have these issues and not actually have them. Some people even think that it's cool to have these issues, that it's, it makes them unique to have depression and have anxiety, and so they'll actually take on those issues and will begin to struggle with them. All of those things are definitely issues that do happen. Hypochondriac can believe they're mentally ill, but unfortunately will make themselves mentally ill in doing so.
So it is possible.
Yeah, it definitely happens.
So I've been fortunate. This is another question. So I've been fortunate enough to not really have to deal with mental health issues, but I've had friends wait, this is really far away. I'm gonna read it here. But I've had friends who do have to deal with them. What's the best I can help them when they come to me? What's the best I can do to help them when they come to me? Is it always to direct them to professional help? And if they don't want to come out with their issues to professionals, what should one do then? Okay,
that's a really good question. Being the support for somebody dealing with mental health issues can be very difficult. It can also be incredibly exhausting, because when you're dealing with when people constantly approach you with these issues and they don't want professional help, it can be frustrating because you're not really sure what else to do. When a friend reaches out to you and says that they're feeling depressed, one of the best things that you can do is hear them out and then ask them how you can help. So when somebody reaches out to me on an unprofessional level, just a friend of mine is like, hey, Jason, I'm really depressed. I say, well, I'm really sorry to hear that. What's going on? Why are you feeling depressed? And I'll let them say what they're going to say. One of the important things that you make note is don't relate it to yourself. Don't say, oh, yeah, I know what that's like. I dealt with depression for years, and this is what because all of a sudden them reaching out just turned to you having the spotlight. Let them have the spotlight for a bit. Even if you can relate, show them that you can relate by understanding what they're saying, by really being focused on what they're saying. A lot of people never have the opportunity to share to somebody who's actually listening to what they're saying, and so providing that is incredibly valuable. And always follow it up with, what can I do to help? Sometimes people will say, this was helpful, thank you. Other times people will say, well, maybe there's something specific you can do. Depending on what they say, what help should look like is offering professional help, suggesting professional help, letting them know there's this program that I know of that you could go through, or I had a friend who saw a professional and this is what it looked like for them. Making them aware that ultimately coming to you is going to lead towards going to professional help. With younger individuals, teenagers, a lot of the times talking about these issues is helpful, and then so they don't deal with these issues, they feel good in the moment, and then they go on and they keep dealing with these issues because they ultimately don't do anything but satisfy that initial need to talk to somebody. So always having it end with, you've got to see professional help. That's how you beat this. If you have a friend that is really close to you and they refuse to seek professional help, one of the best things that I've seen people do for them is to seek professional help themselves. Being able to speak from that perspective and say, well, I'm seeing a therapist.
Yeah.
And it's working for me. That's one of the stronger things you can do. And in kind of a takeaway that I would leave there is, um, don't attempt to help somebody because you want to. Attempt to help somebody because you can. You can really only help within your means, and if the best that you can do is listen every once in a while, try and make sure that you don't listen every single day, because at that point they're not getting help. They're just venting and do need more than just talking. But if you can suggest professional help, if you have experience in that, that's always the best thing that you can do. And also try and realize too that not everybody needs to seek professional help. Not everybody that's feeling depressed in the moment is dealing with major depression. Not everybody that's anxious is dealing with an anxiety disorder. So just being there for them is usually more than enough.
Do you think it would be if you're not sure if someone's like actually going through it, do you think that them going to one and then finding out if it's for real or not is worth it? Because not everyone might not need it, right? So
I'm actually of the feeling that everybody should see a therapist. And it's that to me is unfortunate, but we're at the point where going to a therapist is pretty much like going to the gym, but for your mental health. You don't need to be anxious or depressed to see a therapist and get a lot of value.
Yeah.
What a therapist can do for you is help you understand what goals you have for yourself in life, can help you find motivation, can help you find focus. Therapists can help you develop relationships that you never really got to organically develop. Let's say you're uncomfortable with a specific situation. Maybe you're not comfortable talking to other people, or maybe you didn't have a relationship with your parents. A therapist can fit some of those roles and show you what those relationships look like and give you better interactions with other people. I think one of the best things that I got from therapy, aside from treating my anxiety, was that I learned how to love myself, and more importantly, I learned how to love other people. And in loving other people, I was able to talk with them and work with them. And, having been stuck at home for so many years, I relearned how to interact with people on a social level. So it's always a good idea to recommend a therapist, even if they're not dealing with those issues, because the therapist can tell them whether those issues are something they need to take serious, or can just say, hey, no, you're fine, but we can talk if you'd like.
Yeah. Well, thank you for that. What's another question? Okay, so someone asked, what would one do about untriggered depression? And that basically means depression that just happens out of the blue without warning.
So I would say untriggered depression is triggered depression that you're not aware of. We just don't mentally work that way, where things spontaneously come up like that. What ends up happening is, let's say that you have a cup, just like an empty cup, and every time you get stressed, you add a drop of water to that cup. And so little things in your life can add drops, and then something really big happens and you pour in quite a bit of water. Inevitably, that cup is going to overflow, and it doesn't really take a whole lot for it to overflow. Over time, if you're not able to empty that cup, you will inevitably overflow, just with the general process of life. So let's say you've poured in maybe like 3/4 of your cup full of water with really traumatic things that have happened to you that you've never dealt with. And then you're late to school, or you're late coming home, or dinner isn't what you want. Little things like that do actually add stress, and it can be just enough to tip it over. Ultimately, professional help is going to be the way to go there. But taking on mindfulness meditation, really reading some of those books. One of my favorites is Mind Over Mood. If you're dealing with depression specifically, The Mindfulness Way Through Depression is my favorite book for depression. That's The Mindfulness Way Through Depression. And that'll help you become more aware of where your depression comes from, as well as how to stay in the moment of that depression and defeat it. So, yeah, again, if it seems untriggered, it's definitely triggered. It's just something that you're not fully aware of.
I have a question, I guess, to kind of go off of that. So I noticed for me, what I did was every time I kind of have a journal, but I really only wrote in it when I was like really depressed, and I kind of was able like to catch on to what made me sad by writing in there and being able to like, I don't know, basically document everything. I don't know. I just lost my train of thought. But so I was able to basically like go back and be like, okay, so this basically bothered me, and it wasn't necessarily like a direct trigger, but it bothered me, and you can kind of like do it that way. Is there like methods like that's like beyond just like what I did with like writing? Do you think that there's any other way to kind of keep track of it or like to learn, or do you think that like going, I know that like, or like talking to someone, like you think like a therapist could do that for you? Is that something that they would be able to catch on to?
Writing is incredibly healthy. On our website, we have a little process called Just Vent, where the whole point is for you to just write out what you're dealing with, and you may get a response, you may not get a response, but the thought process being that you put to word a lot of the things that you're feeling. Unfortunately, with depression and anxiety, we oftentimes skip from A to Z, and we don't see anything in between. You know, we're upset and we feel the full feelings of being upset, and we don't really think about the process of that.
Yeah.
And so being able to write that down does illuminate some of that process for us. One of the best practices that you can do is, if you're writing things down and you're comfortable writing these issues down, start retracing the steps. Let's say you're feeling really anxious right now. You're having a panic attack. Why are you having a panic attack? For one, ask yourself that question. Just write it on the top of the page. Why am I panicking? And you may tell yourself something, and when you write it down, you're like, this is really silly. But I feel like everybody is looking at me right now, that everybody is judging me. There's a smudge on my shirt. There's something amiss, and everybody is super focused. And you write that down, and you're like, well, okay, so that's why I'm panicked. But why does that make me afraid? Why am I afraid that people are looking at me and judging me, or that people may notice something like that? Why does that matter to me? And so you might write down, well, you know, I don't want that attention because the last time that people noticed something like that, they said something to me, and that confrontation was really scary. And then so you might further write, well, why was that confrontation scary to me? What happened? Did I get hurt? Did I get beat up? And you say, oh, well, I did get beat up. You know, the last time people noticed something about me, they pointed it out, and then I got bullied for it. And they even hit me. And so what you've really done there is you've traced down this fear, and now you can work yourself right up the ladder. Well, what are the chances that I'm going to get bullied right now?
Yeah.
What are the chances that somebody's actually going to say something or do something to me? I'm out in public, and you know, it's just, is that going to happen? And then maybe you even notice, well, I see a stain on somebody else's shirt, and I don't really care, or I'm thinking about other people and they're not even aware that I'm thinking about them. And you're just kind of writing all of these feelings down to the point where you start defeating some of the logic that you hold.
Yeah.
We do this in cognitive behavioral therapy as well. For example, you may even write the pros and cons. Let's say you're having a panic attack and you think you're going to die, or you think maybe you're going to go crazy. Write down all the proofs that you have that you're going to die or that you're going to go crazy, and then write down all of the proofs that that's not going to happen, and really start to weigh those out and allow yourself to be realistic with that. It's certainly a powerful tool.
There's another question?
There's
Thank
a lot
you.
of questions.
Okay. Someone said, what would you suggest to someone who can't move on after the loss of a relative or a pet?
Yeah. Moving on is such an interesting term. I think there's not a whole lot of real ways to put what happens when you're moving past a relative. Or I mean, I would count a pet as a relative because
Yeah.
I'm obsessed with animals. But you know, I would say that there isn't necessarily a way to move on. There is a way to find peace with the feelings and the loss. And some of that comes from exploring your feelings of sorrow and why it's so painful to you. Coming to terms with what may have been left unsaid and what may not have been able to be addressed and shared. And maybe there were things that you always wanted to say or things you always wanted to do, and not fighting those feelings, because a lot of the times we don't want to embrace those thoughts because they bring pain and they bring sorrow, but we inevitably have to face them. And so just allowing yourselves be wrapped up in the emotion of all of that and to be wrapped up in the pain of all of that. And if you don't find yourself becoming untangled from that pain once you've embraced those questions, then seeking professional help. This is something that, if the family member just passed away and you've allowed yourself to grieve and you don't get over it after 3, 5, 6 months, something may be wrong, and you may have just become depressed. Depressed is a series of behaviors you've adapted. So that's when you can seek professional help. If this person just passed away and you haven't grieved yet, allow yourself to grieve. And if you don't know how to do that, if you're struggling with allowing yourself to grieve, then you can see a therapist, and together you can learn how to grieve over that person and then recover and find peace.
Yeah. Like you said before, like sometimes you just have to let like the depression happen. You just have to like let yourself feel those things because it is all valid. More questions. For someone who has tried meditation time and time again without much success and has a lot of issues with having a racing mind, hardly any thoughts are complete for long periods of time. What are some other methods that I could try to dampen the noise that isn't medication? I've had the big three: anxiety, OCD, and depression for many years and haven't found many things that have lasting effects and help.
Yeah, that's a tough one. So with meditation, sometimes it's a matter of having realistic goals. I've been doing mindfulness meditation for maybe 4.5 years now. And I want to say at best, I can have maybe 5 seconds where my mind is completely blank. And I'm going to keep doing this for years and years and years until I can get to a minute of just complete mind silence. But the reality is with meditation is it's never going to be completely silent. And that's kind of the point. What you want to do with your meditation time is allow yourself to be anxious and to become hyper aware of why you're anxious, and to focus on each and everything and allow those thoughts and those feelings to have a valid point in your mind instead of being dismissed or instead of being run away from or escaped from. That in itself is healthy meditation. But even then, it always comes with this idea that we're supposed to be able to reach some kind of state of mind or even enlightenment or ultimate silence. And that's just not what you're supposed to do. It's not how it works. So I think if you look at meditation in that way, that meditation might be something that you can revisit. But if it's something that's just completely dismissed, it always ends up going, okay, well, let's try medication. And medication, if you've tried it before, it may not have worked. Medications react differently to each and every person. But even then, medications sometimes just aren't the right call. The thing after that, short of seeing a professional and getting into therapy, it becomes lifestyle changes. And these can be some of the hardest things to change, but once you can start changing them, you'll see dramatic increases in your health. If you go on a walk for at least 30 minutes a day, and trust me, no matter how anxious or depressed you're feeling, you just push yourself out of the door. Tell yourself you don't need a reason, you don't need motivation, you don't need anything, you just go. Yeah, I would do this in pajamas. And when I had OCD, I always had this fear that I was going to get an allergic reaction to stuff. So I was afraid to touch anything. So I'd put on boots and jackets and get all covered up and just walk. And so if you can walk, you'll notice an improvement. And that's 30 minutes every single day, no matter what, no matter how you're feeling. If you do one thing that day, you walk, then you've been successful that day. If you can start to walk, you'll notice that you can start to sleep a little bit better. If you start sleeping at least 8 hours a day and you set an actual schedule, you'll notice dramatic increases in your mental health. And then if you start eating a lot better, you'll notice some pretty big increases in your mental health that'll ultimately lead to you being able to work on meditation or work on therapy and have a little bit more success with those things. If meditation, medication, therapy, and lifestyle changes don't work, The unfortunate side to that is it sometimes doesn't, but I promise you that's not the case with you, and it's not the case with 99% of people that exist. It's either they weren't ready, the therapist wasn't good, the medication wasn't right, the meditation wasn't done correctly. Those are almost always the issue. And for the people that are in that tiny 1% that these never work for, then you're looking at things like ECT, which is the more, I guess, famed process where you go through the electric shocks. And as scary as that can sound, I have a friend that's doing it right now, and it's incredibly helpful for her. And it's a process that I actually wish I did, because from what I hear from people who do get successful ECT, it's like night and day. It's almost like somebody turned the anxiety switch off and they feel no anxiety whatsoever.
People are
That might be
asking,
the way
how
to
does
go.
that work?
How does ECT work?
Mhm.
Oh man, ECT is a pretty experimental process, but essentially what you're triggering is a seizure, a controlled seizure, and the thinking is that we are changing the balance in the neurotransmitters, as well as changing the electrical pattern, or fixing the electrical pattern within the brain, and by doing so, that can drop the anxiety. So if you have an imbalance, the theory is that it can lead to anxiety and depression. We're starting to learn that that's not necessarily the case. Somebody that's depressed doesn't have an imbalance of serotonin. It could be other neurotransmitters responsible. The jury's still out completely as we're learning more and more. So what the leading theory in ECT is the way that it works is that there's kind of an electrical pattern to the brain that's gone off, and by shocking it, we can reset it, or going through the seizure, we can reset that process. And as much as we still don't fully understand, it does seem to work. Unfortunately, that's the same case with medication, as we don't entirely understand in what ways they do work. We just know in theory why they should work and that they do.
Okay, I want to ask you how much longer you want to go for, because it's been an hour and we have questions still. So I don't know if we should like stop taking questions now, because we still have it's like 5 we have written down, so we can like stop taking questions now.
I'm up for whichever. The other option, Justin, this chair. The other option is that you can write into us. I know right now we're moving into a new office and a lot of our care team is impacted, so we'll be a lot slower to answer some of those questions. So this is probably the fastest way. But if it's about my timeline, I'm free right now, so I'm more than happy to answer questions if it's okay for this stream.
Okay, that's fine. We got 19 hours or 20 hours left, so I'm okay if you're all right with
And
it.
we'll read. There's donation messages. We'll read those after Jason's done. 'Cause
Okay.
people have been donating throughout.
Okay.
So.
Well, thank you to everyone who has been donating. Okay, so I'm gonna just go to the next question. I don't know if we want to stop taking questions. Are we done? I don't know.
We can keep going for.
Okay.
Yeah.
Just let me know when you've had enough. Someone asked, what should someone do about their anxiety if they had a friend or family member that had a different view in religion, and like how some religions have an afterlife, good or bad? I don't know if I could have worded that better for you, but I'm sorry.
Okay, so
basically just having anxiety about like someone in their life not agreeing on terms of like religion and like afterlives and stuff like that. What should someone do about anxiety? That's probably like,
I guess there's a lot of different religious views on how to deal with things that may not be congruent with the medical side of things.
Yeah, I'm like trying to quantify that answer in my head. So the question is dealing with anxiety when people might disagree because their religion, or
that's what it seems to be. I don't know if the person wants to clarify. I think they whispered to you, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I think it just seems to be like how to deal with the anxiety of not having friends or family, I guess, see the same view as you in terms of religion.
Oh, okay, I see. Yeah, That's a tough one. I think realistically, that's part of life as well, where you ultimately will struggle with the fact that people disagree, and people, they won't always be able to come to the same terms as you, and that's okay at the end of the day. I don't think we have to have people agree with us to be happy. And when you're feeling anxiety because people disagree with you, maybe the way to approach that is to ultimately learn to accept that you probably also don't agree with them on multiple things, and that's okay for you. I don't know. That's pretty much a tough one. I think from the clinical side, there's no real answer to that, but more from the practical side that, yeah, it's okay to disagree with people, and it's okay for them to disagree with you.
Yeah, and I'm sure if it's a very specific situation, like a professional would be able to kind of break that down easier for you, because that's kind of vague, and everyone's situation is very different, so it's kind of hard to give like a general answer to something that's so broad, or that could be so specific. I said that the opposite of what I meant to say. Anyway, moving along. If they didn't get the answer they wanted and you want to explain better in a different way, you can let us know, because I know someone whispered that. But so Seesaw in chat said, are there professionals through anxiety gaming, or the ones that are found for applicants that are available psychologists or psychiatrists? The difference being that some people do need medication for their issue, which only a licensed psychiatrist can prescribe.
Right.
So I think they're asking if like anxiety gaming has that.
So we have a healthy mix of both. So for those unfamiliar, so a psychiatrist is a medical doctor that studies the brain and the body, and from the mental health perspective, learns a lot more, at least in practice, learns a lot more about how medications impact the body and the brain. They learn a lot of psychopharmacology versus psychologists, who will vary depending on what they specialize in, but typically learn in theory and in practice of the clinical and applied aspects of human behavior, which that sounds ridiculously complicated. But in practice, pretty much one you will see for psychotherapy and the other you will more than likely see for medication. So with that, we essentially utilize both. It really depends on what you're looking for. If you come to me and you're interested in medication and you would also like psychotherapy, we can find both. Very rarely we'll connect you with a psychiatrist who also practices psychotherapy. From our experience, most psychiatrists are very limited in their scope of psychotherapy, just given how much time they spend in school not practicing that. So really, it's we'll find professionals for whatever you need. It's definitely tuned towards you.
Yeah, so you guys have both, basically. I'm assuming that was the question. You have both available. Which one? Okay. Can you speak about
$25. No.
what time? How? I don't know. Okay, I'm just gonna read the next question. Sorry, Patrick's confusing me. Can you speak about resources to help those around you to understand depression as well? One of the challenges of dealing with these issues is the shame and stigma attached, which already makes trying to communicate about them hard. So we are not only taking our own emotional triage, but often becoming responsible for educating those around us to be better allies as well. So they're basically asking for resources that you can provide to help like others in your life understand what you're going through.
Okay. So providing resources for those that are struggling, and combating the stigma. That's, I think, what I...
Yeah, just they just asked about resources. I guess like books or videos or something that they could like offer,
Or websites.
So on our website, anxietygaming.com, we do have a guide to recovery, and that kind of explains a lot of the different process of recovery and what that looks like. It explains some of the methods of recovery, so some of the programs that you'll go through, as well as some of the treatments that you'll experience. The books that we always recommend are books like Mind Over Mood. It's my favorite book. That book has now kind of changed the entire way the UK approaches mental health. The Mindfulness Way Through Depression. Those are the ones that I always feel most comfortable recommending to people. But I think at the end of the day, what it ends up coming down to is a lot of people see the stigma and ultimately don't want to reach out for help because they're worried about how other people are going to view them, how their family might view them. And it's such an expensive process. And that's why we do a lot of these things in private. When somebody reaches out through Anxiety Gaming, all of your information is kept completely private. So you don't have to worry about other people knowing about what you're going through. If you're trying to be the support system for a friend that's struggling with the stigma, offer to go with them. That's probably one of the most upfront things that you can do is say, I'll go with you to your first session, or I'll drive you there, or I'll wait outside of your first session, and really make the jump to being hands-on with them in that way, or even just being able to share your own mental health and kind of talking a little bit more about that, and not, again, we talked earlier about not trying to steal the spotlight, but when appropriate, showing them that you yourself are not afraid of that stigma. And if you are, you pretty much have to work on beating that stigma yourself first before you can really illuminate that path for somebody else.
Yeah. Did we just hit 400? Okay, so we just hit another milestone, which is awesome. Thank you guys, to everyone who has donated. There's Asporium, Bino, Howdy, Christina, E-Cookie, and then Neo, and then Sun. And that was that was before this started happening, so everyone before that was had their alert pop up. But thank you to everyone who has just donated. Someone said thank you so much for doing this stream and being here for people. Really great and important conversation. So thank you, Christina, for that. But yeah, everyone, no one else left a message like that. But thank you guys, and we'll probably do the giveaway, or not probably. We'll do the giveaway when this talk is over, just so you guys have where I can run it now, and you guys can enter if you want. So what I was doing for every 200 that we hit, I was going to do a print giveaway for the piece that I'm currently working on. So I'll actually open that in chat because just everyone has to talk in chat if they want to be entered. So if you guys want to do, whoop, I'm opening the wrong thing. If you guys want to do that, you'll be entered now. You don't have to say anything specific. You just have to talk in chat. So yeah, we'll roll it in in a bit. We'll probably do it after this convo is over, so that we have time to go through questions now. So we have 2 more questions. And one of them is serious question, but as the years have gone by, have you realized being depressed or having anxiety has become normalized, cool, hip? Or would you say since the internet is more popular that people are able to express their emotions? I feel like it's probably both, don't you think?
Yeah, I don't think those questions are tied in that way. I definitely see that a lot of people in trying to kind of deal with what they're going through have started to normalize these issues or even kind of make them exciting or cool. I know occasionally on Twitter people will follow us and they go proudly disabled in their profile, or they'll kind of brag about having depression or anxiety, and to me that's really concerning. These are issues that we don't have to live with and that we can beat. It's to me, I see it the same way as somebody kind of bragging about having cancer or some kind of other really serious issue that impacts themselves and everyone around them. These are issues that we absolutely need to take action against, but also they're not issues that we should be ashamed of.
Yeah.
And so it's really great that with the internet, more people are able to talk about these issues and share that they're struggling. But definitely one of the best ways that you can help anxiety gaming and help those struggling with mental health issues is to always push that conversation towards recovery. It should always look like that. When somebody says they're depressed, being able to listen and suggest that they focus on getting better. But it is maybe the question was also supposed to ask or meant to ask, are these issues increasing? And that actually is true. Unfortunately, these issues are increasing, and that's justifying the increased amount of population on the Earth. These issues still are rapidly developing, not just beyond us becoming more aware of how to diagnose them, but people seemingly are dealing with these issues more often in total.
Makes sense. I think that was all that question. And then we have one more written down. For a long time, and even now, sometimes it feels like my soul is being pinned. And even though I know that I should be doing, or even though wait, I'm getting caught up on these words.
For a long time, and even now, sometimes it feels like my soul is being pinned. And even though I know that I should be.
See, exactly, because there's a word missing that I should be doing. I just can't seem to bring myself to do it. It can be as simple as getting out of bed. I don't know if anyone else has felt this way, but I was wondering how you would free yourself from that feeling. I'm sorry about laughing. I'm just nervous, so that's like a nervous thing. But yeah, it seems like they're just having a hard time doing things as simple as getting out of bed. And how would you free yourself of that feeling is what they're asking.
Okay. Yeah. Depression and anxiety can be physically and mentally crippling. One of the things that I like to use to describe that is it feels almost like there's a messy room. And so, you see piles of clothes over here and piles of clothes over there, and there's just trash over here, and you should clean the room, but there's so many different places to begin that you really just don't ever start because it's so overwhelming. It's like I could start here, but there's this huge mess over here, and if I start there, well, there's this huge mess over there, and you get caught up in that. I don't mean it to sound so straightforward, but with anxiety and with depression, you only need to make that step once to do some serious damage. Every day that you don't get up, every day that you give in to the anxiety and depression, you reaffirm those issues, you solidify them. But the one day that you stand up against it, it's going to be painful, it's going to be difficult, it's not something you're going to want to do, and it's not something you have motivation to do, but it has such a strong impact on your mental health. And the more days that you can keep standing up, the better and better it gets. So, on those days where you tell yourself, like, I really don't even want to get out of bed, and you may say to yourself, I don't want to get out of bed because if I do, there's so much I have to do, and I have this homework, and I have to respond to these people, and I have to go to this place, and I have to do all of that. Just scrap all of that in your mind. You have no responsibility. Your one goal is to just get up. Changing the focus of your mind in that way can be helpful. But I think at some point too, just acknowledging that you don't need motivation, that you don't need to feel like getting up to get up. You simply at some point have to force yourself to. I wish it wasn't as straightforward as it is, but it was the same situation for myself, and it's the same situation for so many people. A lot of people reach out to us and they want to get better, and they're just simply not ready to do that. And for me, what it means to be ready is to understand that this is just incumbent on you. You have to fight it at some point. You have to make that stand at some point. And when you're ready to make that stand, you'll beat it. I can guarantee that. But that one day when you're stuck in bed, just tell yourself it doesn't matter whether you want to or not. You just do it. You just do it. And when you do it, celebrate it. Praise yourself. Give yourself so much happiness for it. Eat what you want. Do something fun to celebrate the fact that you got up, and you'll keep doing it.
Yes. And I think that, as always, everything kind of goes back to like professional help. I feel like if you feel like you can't do that alone, having like a support system and like, a professional like give you examples on how to do that and everything would probably help. I feel like questions like this are like, it's really cool to answer, but I feel like on a personal, everyone's so different that like having someone know exactly your situation will probably give you the best answers rather than such a generalized conversation that we're having right now. So if it doesn't sound like something you want to hear, it's okay. I wouldn't take that personal, right? But I just want to say thank you like a billion times to Asporium for they originally donated $85 and then they just did another $200 donation. So holy poop, thank you so much.
We hit another milestone.
And that means we hit another milestone, so we'll do 2 giveaways whenever we roll it. But thank you guys, like thank you all of you guys for being here,
Thank you.
asking questions, like just listening and donating and everything. It means a lot. Do we have another one?
Don't have
Can we
any.
drop
No
the
more? We have no more questions? Okay. I don't know if anyone...
Oh, wet. He's soaking wet.
What?
Is that a dog?
I was gonna grab my puppy and I go to pick him up and he's like soaking wet. I'm not really sure why, but he's completely asleep too.
Did he fall in the
doing, guy?
water bowl?
Oh,
I don't
God.
know.
My dog used to
What?
like lick himself and then he'd be wet, so he could have been doing that. He could have been cleaning himself.
We love puppies.
Crazy
I'm
dog
trying
lady.
to pick him up for the stream. Let me see. You want to get up? Yes or no? No. You have a big stomach. Come on, buddy. Yeah, he's like completely wet. What the heck? What? He's like just sitting behind me too. There's no way for him to be this wet.
Is it water?
I want to hope so. Covered in whatever it is at this point. Come on, jeez. Oh.
So small. Those floppy ears. So cute.
His head is too big for his body.
How old is he?
He's 14 weeks now.
Oh my
14.
god. So cute. Everyone
Is
knows my obsession with Doges. Does he have little socks? Does he have little white feet?
He does. Let me.
Oh my
see if I can
glob.
show them.
Look at his little toe socks. So cute.
All right.
Thank you for
He's
showing us
still
your
teething.
doggo. I love doggos.
That's
Thank you for
lovely.
taking the risk of picking up a wet doggo.
Yeah. I'm still trying to figure out why he's soaking wet.
Yeah. Do you have anything you want to just shout out or that you're working on or that's happening right now?
Rerun the video too.
Yeah.
Yeah. I would love to just say thank you for you guys for putting this on, and thank you for everybody for asking these questions. I know it's not easy asking these kinds of questions, but in doing so, you've probably gotten a lot of answers for people who would have never asked those questions because they're afraid to. I'm more than happy to answer questions. I know right now we're super busy, but if you send us in questions through info@Anxiety Gaming, we can answer those within the week and just give you a little bit more of an understanding of what's going on, and hopefully be able to help you move forward.
Yeah. I think what you keep saying is like recovery, like at the end of every conversation like that, just know that like recovery is an option and that it's possible. Like, I hope if anyone gets anything from this, they understand that, and that, you know, if you need help, Anxiety Gaming can help you, and that's what's awesome about it. So I'm super thankful for you guys. I think like what everyone's been saying, like, I wish we had this. Like,
Yeah.
I don't, it's not even, like, you guys have been around for a while, but, you know, I can't imagine, like, how much it's helped people, because I feel like if I was a teenager going through what I was going through, having something like this would have been, like, life-changing. For real. But I'm assuming no one else has questions. There's nothing else went through, right? That was it? Yeah, that was the last donation. All right, I'm gonna do the giveaway at some point. So I'm just gonna mention, if you guys want to enter the giveaway, we're gonna have two. I'm gonna roll them twice because we hit 2 of the goals that we had. So all you have to do is talk in chat and be following, and I'm gonna roll it, and it will be for a print of the piece that I'm currently working on. So whoever wins will get one once it's finished, and I'll send it out then. So it might not be immediately, but I'm just letting you know that you guys will get it. Is there anything else? I don't know. I feel like it's all on you. You're the star of the show right now. I don't know if you have anything to say. All the lurkers, yes, hello.
Yeah, I think one of the things that it took me a long time to realize that people might not be some kind of advice from my own perspective of going through this and helping so many people, is that these issues have probably normalized for you at some point. You've probably been depressed for so long that you don't even really realize that you are depressed. Or you might be so anxious that you don't really even realize that you have anxiety. You've just avoided places for so long, or avoided certain things, or felt a certain way for most of your life. And as difficult as those things feel, and as so deeply intricate as they can be in your life, they're definitely things that we can move forward through. Depression is one of the more treatable mental health issues. Anxiety is really straightforward. As far as treatment goes, I've watched tens of thousands of people recover, and even the reasons why they're dealing with these issues have ultimately fallen away because the process of treating them is so straightforward. It's just about committing to it, just one day getting up and deciding that you've had enough, and that you deserve better. On that day, I can guarantee you we'll help you, we'll talk with you, we'll get you through that process so you don't have to live like that anymore. You just have to be brave enough to stand up.
Wait, so we got another question. Okay, I think we should do these two more and then we can wrap it up if that's okay with everyone. Someone said, what's the best way to approach someone you think might be dealing with mental health issues? You see their general mood and personality change to something more negative and know that they haven't brought it up with anyone. Is it best to wait for them to try to talk about it, or should you confront them and try to address the issue?
Ooh, that typically depends on your relationship with the person. If it's somebody that you know, like let's say you're in the same class as somebody that you see is clearly depressed, confrontation can be really difficult. So just really walking up to them and saying like, hey, if you ever needed somebody to talk to, you can talk with me. If it's a close friend, you can be a little bit more confrontational and just, sorry, he's got a ball that he's throwing. He's playing fetch with himself by throwing it against me. But that can be a little bit more confrontational in the sense that you can just go up to them and say like, hey, I really think that you're not doing so well. You sound depressed. Is there any way that we can talk? And really asking them for the opportunity to help, asking them for the opportunity to engage them. And if they say no, letting them know, well, if you ever want to, I'm here. I have some ideas of how to get through this, so just let me know.
Cool, thank you for that. I know that's like super situational too, so.
We got clarification on one of the other questions too. But, this one might be a good one.
Okay. Oh yeah. All right. I also. Okay. So not sure if I can still ask a question. I should have not read that out loud. But I wanted to ask Jason about his views on 13 Reasons Why. I watched it and thought it was untactful, but wanted to know if he'd watched it. Everyone knows my opinion on this.
I actually, so I've been talking with another person recently that really loves that show and is one of our care specialists. I actually thoroughly dislike that show.
Me as well.
I don't like what it stands for. I don't like what it's trying to communicate, and I don't like that it's trying to glorify these issues. It's really unfortunate. When people commit suicide, unfortunately, they don't tell anybody. They don't plan with other people. They just do it. And it's a really sad thing that we can't interject or intercede most of the times. To some extent, it's almost a good thing when somebody reaches out because I know they don't want to do this. With that show, they have so many different stigmas that they're pushing together, that they're almost trying to make mental health issues look beautiful, but they're also trying to make it look kind of cool. and they're also trying to make it look like it's everybody else's fault that this person did this, and that's the whole thing to me just is really tacky. I'm sure it's really great teenage drama or something like that, but unfortunately, this isn't what mental health issues look like. It's not what suicide looks like. In these issues, it's not a bunch of really beautiful people struggling. These people suffer internally to a degree that is so hard to understand and appreciate. And it's not something that the show communicated well. So yeah, I'm not a fan.
Yeah.
It's good that it gets the counter conversation going, though.
Yeah.
So.
We were like talking about it in stream, and basically what we have read is that like if you're interested, there's apparently like, I don't know, people are just saying to like prepare themselves for it, because I feel like so many people went into watching it and like they weren't prepared. I don't know. I would suggest against it. I'm sure there's still going to be people who do it, but I feel like if you have any sort of like mental struggles, that might not be the show for you at all.
Also said to clarify, they said that this person that asked the question had actually read the book and then watched the show, and they said that the show was really bad, but the book went about it a lot better apparently. But I don't know. I think we'd have to do research on that.
Yeah, and I don't know if my mental expense could go with that. I don't know if you noticed that, but is there another? I keep saying we're gonna not take more questions, and then we're taking more questions.
I don't mind. I don't know what works best for you, but
okay. I don't want to like not answer because it's not like a whole bunch. So if you don't mind, I will keep asking you. Yeah, but that show, this stream does not condone that show. That's been very clear from the very start.
Why you shouldn't watch this show.
Okay, so someone said my friends often ask how to help with my depression and anxiety, and I often tell them that just being here is enough, but I feel like sometimes they find that answer lacking. Any advice?
Yeah, that's I think it's a really beautiful thing if you're dealing with depression and your friends do want to help. I think letting them know how much you appreciate that is definitely helpful, because the struggle for somebody trying to help another person with depression is that they see you suffering, they don't want to see you suffering, and so when they do, they feel like they have no control, they feel helpless. Letting them know that they're not helpless, letting them know, hey, come take me out, just make me go outside when I don't want to, make me do things that I should be doing. All of those things are the best ways that they can help you. Yeah, that's tough. I think having that intimate conversation with them and really letting them know how much you care and how much you appreciate their help, and reaffirming that what they're doing is helpful, but also showing them, in what way it's helpful. If you didn't come and hang out with me today, if you didn't talk with me today, I would have just sulked today, or I probably wouldn't have gotten out of bed. So, in that way, you really did help me.
Yeah, I don't know if they had anything else. That was it for
this
that
one was the clarification on the one about religion, I guess.
Okay, so someone said, what I was trying to say is like heaven being the good place and it required different stuff to get in, while hell is a bad place and is a land of punishment if that person doesn't do the stuff that is required to enter. What I'm trying to say is it scared me knowing a friend is getting punished for all eternity. So I still don't quite understand.
It sounds like they're feeling anxious because they're worried that their friends are going to go to hell. Is that?
That might be the case. I don't know if he wants to clarify, but that might be it. I don't know, because I know you're whispering them right now, so I don't know, like whispering them, so I don't know if they want to answer. We don't have any other questions beyond that one, so I know that one just seems to be really specific. It's just kind of hard to give advice to someone when you don't know all the technicalities, and going through someone is a little difficult. I feel like it might be able to fill out something on the website with that, like, and actually have a conversation directly instead of going through people might work. I don't know if
It's
that's
definitely an option. The religious questions, it really kind of depends. When you're asking from that perspective, if you're worried about your friends going to hell and you want to be able to help them, it's definitely a really good question to ask your pastor or your imam or your rabbi, whichever denomination that you're coming from. From the clinical standpoint, the most I could say to that is to really appreciate the fact that ultimately you really love people and your concern for them is coming from this pure place where you want them to have the same eternal happiness that you envision yourself having, and maybe even communicating that. It's I think people that aren't religious don't have that told to them by religious people often enough. It's not that you're trying to missionize them in the sense that you're trying to tell them they're wrong, as much as you love them and you're worried about them and want what's best for them, and to you that's what seems like is the best thing, or you believe truly that it is the best thing. But having that kind of conversation ultimately will lead to them either accepting it or rejecting it, and there's not a whole lot you can do about that. I mean, depending on where your faith is, you may just have to trust that your deity will ultimately guide them to where they need to go. That it really depends, predestination or not kind of deal. It's hard to speak to that without too much detail.
yeah. Did they say anything else, or
We got the
we're good?
we got the intent behind the question. It
Okay.
looks like.
Awesome. Yay.
Okay.
Okay, so that was the last question. I think we might be good. I think this was a really good Q&A, even though I am really bad at speaking out loud. Words are hard. But thank you so much for everything that you do and for speaking with everyone here today. I appreciate you taking the time. And I'm sure a lot of people here also appreciate it as well. I'm sure a lot of these questions were wanting to be asked for a while, so that makes me happy that we were able to give them a place to ask them.
I'm so glad I could be of help. It was a pleasure. Absolutely.
Well, thank you so much. I don't know. I asked you, but I don't know if you have anything. Do you have like any current things happening that you're working on, or like any upcoming stuff? Because we have a lot of people in California that might be near you. I don't know if you have any events or something.
Yeah, if you're in SoCal, we just opened up a new office and we're definitely looking for lots of help. So people are always welcome to join for things like that. One of the current missions that we have going on is consoles for kids. If you're not familiar with what that is, once or twice a year, kind of depending on how well we're doing, we get together video game consoles, computers, tablets, you name it, and we donate those to local foster homes so that these children in foster care have a way to play video games and get away from their stress just like we did. They have that positive gaming outlet. Right now we've collected 2 Xbox Ones, 1 PlayStation 4, and we have somebody donated 90 pounds worth of like old school gaming equipment. Like there's an original Nintendo Xbox, like the original Xbox, a GameCube, all kinds of really cool stuff like that.
That's awesome.
If you're interested, yeah, it's the coolest thing. If you want to get involved on that, if you have some old consoles that you don't use, or any video games that were your favorite, that that this video game really got you through a tough time and you think that it could get somebody else through a really tough time, we'd love for you to donate things like that over to us. And that's as simple as going to anxietygaming.com and sending us a message to our info at Anxiety Gaming. So just go to contact, anxietygaming.com/contact, and either give us a call or send us a message. Since we're moving offices right now, that actual office information is incorrect, so don't mail us stuff to that. Just reach out, let us know what you're trying to send, and we'd be happy to pick that up and give that to somebody who may not otherwise be able to have that kind of stress relief.
Yeah, we'll always have, like, if you guys forget and you want to be reminded again, we have like all the links as well. So if you like
And our
in the future want to ask about it, we'll have that for you guys.
and if you can join your Discord's private, right? You said.
Yes.
Yeah. We have links to all of the anxiety stuff in our Twitch desktop.
In our
services.
Twitch desktop app, we have like a resource thread, and all of anxiety gaming stuff is in there. So if you guys want that, and then also in the chat, we have like commands, and you can whisper KO at any point. I know my whispers are turned off for trolley reasons, but KO is always available, and he can help you as well. But consoles for kids is a thing. Do you have any, like, I know you go to schools. Do you have any school stuff happening? Like anything with
I wish
schools?
I went to school. I graduated a long
No,
time ago.
I mean, like, don't you guys like appear at schools? That's what I mean.
Yeah, so we do tons of really fun stuff across college campuses throughout Southern California. If you're a student in Southern California and you'd like for us to stop by your school, let us know. We'd be happy to come out there and play video games with you and talk about mental health and just have a good time. We work on a lot of the major campuses like UCLA, USC, CSULB, and UCI. So definitely feel free to reach out to your gaming club on campus and just let them know you're interested in talking about anxiety gaming, and they'll most likely have a representative there. Or if they don't, ask them why they don't have a representative and let us get involved. We like to have representatives on every college campus that we have, so anybody can get their mental health questions answered through one of our reps. But also, if you're thinking about ways to get involved, you're unsure, but you're really interested in keeping up with us, you can head over to anxietygaming.com/mail and sign up for our mailing list, and we'll let you know each month what kind of cool stuff we're up to and how you can take part in that.
Yay. Okay. I don't think I have any other questions. Do you, Patrick?
I think most of them.
You
were
said you
answered.
had a question, but
All the questions I think were answered.
okay,
Yeah.
cool. All right. Do you have anything else? I know I like forced information out of you for the last event. I keep asking you, but I just want to make sure because I think we might be good. That was almost 2 hours of answering questions and talking, so I appreciate it so much. Thank you for being
It was
here.
a pleasure.
And
No,
we're
that's it.
gonna have we're gonna upload the video and everything.
Yeah, so this will be on my Twitch uploads as well. So like, I will probably put it on my YouTube
Yeah.
if that's okay with you, Jason. But we're gonna.
Absolutely.
Okay, so we're gonna have it so like people can like watch it if they weren't here and all that. So
And we can send you the video file as well if you want.
yeah, okay. I don't have anything else. So if you want to say anything, that's okay with me. If not, thank you. I just want to say thank you for being here and thank you for showing us your puppy. And again, thank you for everything that you do. I'm really excited to be doing this. We still got 19 hours, so I'm excited. I hope we can hit some more goals, but yeah, just thank you. I don't know if that's ever going to be enough, but I appreciate you and everything that you do, and it means a lot. So I'm glad that we were able to do this.
Again, it's a pleasure, and thank all of you for the questions. Thank you for doing this, Skyhook, and thank you for hosting this, Patrick. It really means a lot, and I'm glad I had the chance to talk about these issues and answer questions for people.
Yeah. All right. One more question I have. Will you guys be at PAX West?
Yes.
Okay. Because if anyone else will be there.
So we're supposed to have our own panel. We're also trying to do a panel on mental health and esports with Counterlogic Gaming for those that are hardcore into esports and professional gaming. We'll be there speaking with Devin Nash from Counterlogic Gaming. He's their CEO, and Brian iShiny from their Overwatch team. And we're actually trying to set up a panel now about mental health and broadcasting, because we work with a lot of broadcasters privately and think that being able to talk about some of the tools that they can get access to, as well as really showing them that a lot of the problems that they're dealing with are things that are common within the community, I think would be really helpful. And we're looking for broadcasters to join us on that panel. So not trying to be too direct in asking, but if you are interested or
I
know
would
anybody
love
else
that.
interested.
I totally would. So I can totally contact you about that, because that would be something that I would be interested in.
Yeah, we can. If you email Sam, Marcus has the stuff, so we can
Yeah.
Okay.
What another question? Because I asked about PAX West. Will you be at you guys will be at TwitchCon because it's in Long Beach, right?
Yes, we'll also
Cool.
be at
Right.
TwitchCon.
We'll
So
see
if
you at
anyone's
both
here
those.
is going to TwitchCon, you guys can see them there as well. That's exciting. Yay! That makes me really happy. Okay. I don't know if you're ready to go. I'm not trying to kick you out, but I don't know what else you want to do. But thank you so much again. And if you guys, we have like links to everything in our chat. So if you need anything, let us know. We can help you. Anxiety Gaming can help you. And thank you, Jason, for being here. Yay.
Bye, everybody.
Bye. Thank you so much. Uh-oh. Da-da-da. Can you put the music on? Hey, so thanks guys for being here. All right, so what I wanted to say.
Run the video again? Okay.
Yeah, let's run the video.
Run the video and then do the giveaways.
Run the video and then I'll give you guys like a rundown of what's happening now. But everyone, like, thank you for being here and talking to Jason and asking questions. It means a lot. I know I'm like super awkward I'm trying to do things, get out of my comfort zone. But we'll be right back. We're going to show you guys a video just to like wrap up what anxiety gaming is in case you just joined. And yeah, I'll see you guys in like a minute or so.
The goal of anxiety gaming is to make mental health accessible to gamers all over the world. We work directly with the therapist and with our own clinicians to make sure that mental health care is incredibly affordable. A lot of the times our rates go as low as $30 a session, and if you can't afford $30 a session, we cover the cost completely through our grant program.